I just want to start by saying a few words in Welsh, because I'm sure that there are a few people here probably Welsh speaking. Mae'n ples yr enfawr I fod yma heddiw, a rhaid fi ddiolch I Ceri a'r Blaid Lladdon y lleol am trefnu heno, a hefyd I Geraint a John am ddod lawr o'r Llundain, saying it's such a pleasure and a privilege to have you down here from London today. And I know everybody here appreciates you travelling this, and also to Geraint for coming and contributing to the events and supporting me and both of you in Parliament. I'm almost a Swansea Jack as well, so it is lovely to be back in Swansea. My grandmother is from Cwmllyn, Beth. My grandfather from Forest Fach. My mother's in the audience from Forest Fach. And I've worked in Swansea University for many years, and I've got friends here this evening from the university and Shelter Cymru as well. So maybe I can be adopted as a Swansea Jack, who knows. But it is a real pleasure to be here this evening. And in terms of background, I think it's worth mentioning, I've got a background in community work, trade unionism locally, and then in 2016 I actually joined the party, and I can blame or thank John and Jeremy, I think, for turning me to the Labour Party. I've always been politically active, but the manifesto, 2017 manifesto, and the progressive socialist policies that John and the party were pursuing at that point, I think, you know, as we know, we had the biggest membership in Western Europe at that time, and you know, I think we can't say too much in terms of thanking John and Jeremy for everything that they've done and continuing to do. And then I suppose I was parachuted into Parliament. I was asked to stand by the local party. And I think it's important to stress that I didn't take the decision lightly, and I'm a socialist, and I became a member of Parliament to pursue and push socialist policies. And I think that's the word that we should shy away from, socialism. It is essential, and we need change. And it is about class struggle. There is so much inequality in our society. This week in Parliament, I spoke in 3 debates. The first was with regards to a 4% cut that's going to come into force in April to social security benefits and pensions the Tories have voted through, which is going to have a devastating effect on millions of people, given the inflation rise is likely of 7-8%. Then I spoke on a cost of living crisis and food insecurity, as Geraint's already mentioned. I know Geraint does a lot of work with regards to food poverty, and we're working together on that initiative with Ian Byrne, the excellent Ian Byrne, who has set up and is leading the Right to Food campaign. We've got 11 million people in the 5th richest nation in the world using food banks. What a travesty, you know. And in Wales, 2,000 food parcels were distributed in my community only last year. It is an absolute travesty that is the case, and it's been normalised, and it should not be normalised at all. Pay freezes since 2010, you know, no increases in the same rate of inflation. People suffering precarious work, short-term contracts, fire and rehire. Even if you're in work, you are not having a decent standard of living. So we are experiencing a cost of living crisis, and it doesn't need to be happening. But as well as a cost of living crisis, we've also got an attack on our democracy, as Geraint has already mentioned. UK government, and it really has been an experience being up there, they are truly riding roughshod over the devolved nations and re-centralising power. Whether you look at the Internal Market Act, the Elections Bill, the levelling up agenda, which doesn't only affect Wales and Scotland, but obviously all the regions in England as well. And I think Vaughan Gethin said only last week that by 2024, Wales will be £1 billion worse off. You know, it's time to challenge what is happening in our country. And I don't want to talk too much about the negativity, because I think tonight, and I think the Roadshow, John, would be fair to say, is trying to to reignite the movement and to give us hope and to turn our words into action so that we can get back to where we were in 2017-16. And for me, as well as within the party, we've also got to look outside of the party as well and continue to work collaboratively with our comrades in the trade union movement, grassroots organisations, workers all over the country, everybody who can join us in order to say to the Tories, enough is enough. There is an alternative way and we will not put up with this anymore. Like I said, we're the fifth richest nation. You've got the cronyism going on, billions of pounds handed, to private companies, and yes, it is absolutely appalling. But in terms of hope, Welsh Government has introduced lots of progressive policies, and I think they are seen as a shining example. I mean, Parliament are John in many respects. And I know the sort of campaign group often referred to Mark Drakeford and the positive work that has taken place in work. We've still got a largely public National Health Service, free prescriptions, we've got the Future Generations Act, the Trade Union Act, the list goes on. And I very much welcome the coalition agreement between Plaid and Labour. It's enabled us to introduce free school meals to all primary school pupils. I very much welcome the pilot on universal basic income, and Mark spoke to me on a platform in the World Transformed at last year's conference. So it is essential where we can on issues to be working with others on socialist principles and policies. And I think that is important to emphasise. I often talk about the bubble of Parliament. Without a doubt, and I've never hidden the fact, it has been a baptism of fire and a really steep learning curve. It really is a bubble and is detached from real life. And I think that's done on purpose. I think that is intentional. But I always say everybody is political. And a very good friend and mentor of mine, I'm not going to look up there now, said when I got up to Parliament, most of the hard work gets done outside of Parliament. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that we are doing this roadshow, so we can get out, speak to people, and like I said, reignite that movement so that we can challenge the Tory, challenge the austerity policies that are still being pursued, and promote the alternative socialist agenda, which I hope that we're all in agreement with here. And just a note, I suppose, on Cynon Valley, because what's kept me going in many respects has been in Parliament, is where I live. My heart and soul is in the valley. It really is. I was born and bred in Aberdeen, and being a member of Parliament has made it possible to have an office in Aberdeen. Obviously, COVID has had a detrimental impact on the work that we can do. But, we are really developing some grassroots projects. I've commissioned some research with the Beth Foundation, looking at a community wealth building approach underpinned by the climate agenda, because there is no bigger threat facing it at the moment than the climate crisis. We've held 4 climate assemblies in the valley, which were attended by over 120 people. And again, we're now turning those ideas into action. I've got subgroups on welfare devolution with a whole cross-section of people from Cynon Valley involved in those. There is an appetite for change, but we have to get out and have those conversations and build people's confidence and belief that things can be different. Because I don't think there's apathy, I just think people have lost hope in many respects, and people are struggling. So many people I see are struggling to put food on the table. So working closely, taking a grassroots approach can really, really turn things around and get people on board, get people angry as well. We need to be angry about what's happening, because it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't at all. And I think I'll just finish by saying that, going back to where I started really, there is an alternative. The 2017-2019 manifesto included some absolutely amazing socialist policies. We're still pursuing those, aren't we, John, in Parliament? We're still pushing for those. And I've got every confidence that we will get those implemented, because we cannot continue in the route that we're taking at the moment. So I'll leave it there, because I know there'll be lots of questions later. And Kieran, do you want to introduce John? It's probably better.